Hello, everybody. It's great to be here today speaking to this group. My name is Dr. Rebecca Portnoff, Vice President of Data Science at Thorn. Thorn is a nonprofit dedicated to building technology to defend children from sexual abuse. At Thorn, we are seeing what the other stakeholders, advocates, thought leaders, and lived experience experts at this summit today are seeing and experiencing, that generative AI is being misused by bad actors to create abuse material, including AI-generated child sexual abuse material. This technology is easy to use, scalable, and produces photorealistic content. Bad actors use primarily broadly shared and open source models to generate this content. In some cases, they will fine-tune these models on existing child abuse imagery to generate additional explicit images of these children, child sexual abuse material. They collaborate to make these images match the exact likeness of a particular child, but produce new poses, acts, and egregious content like sexual violence. These images depict both identified and unidentified survivors of child sexual abuse. But it doesn't stop there. Bad actors are also manipulating children's benign images and videos, photos that these children may have shared on a social media platform, to sexualize that content, then extort them with that sexualized content for financial gain. Children also use this same technology to sexualize imagery of their peers, then bully and harass them with that content. Taking a step back, this content has serious implications on existing victim identification workflows. Victim identification is already a needle in the haystack problem for hotline analysts, law enforcement, and other frontline defenders. They have to sift through huge amounts of content to find the child in active harm's way. So anything that grows that haystack further is a problem. This is particularly troubling given the ability for these technologies to produce photorealistic content and produce that content at scale, making it even harder to determine what in that haystack of content represents a new victim, a known victim, or a fictional child that is generated from the likeness of millions of actual children in the training dataset. To some extent, the cat's already out of the bag. These models have been built, they've been released, they are being misused. But we do still see a window of opportunity. I come at this from a practitioner's perspective. My background is in machine learning AI, and I lead a team of machine learning engineers. So what I see here is opportunity to prioritize child safety across the entire life cycle of machine learning AI, from develop to deploy to maintain. AI developers, AI model providers, search engines, and social platforms all have a role to play. AI developers should be cleaning their datasets, detecting, reporting, and removing child sexual abuse material from their training data. Developers and providers should assess models before release, assess them for their propensity to create abuse material, both when directly prompted to do so and inadvertent generation. Leaders and standard-setting institutions like NIST and IEEE can play a significant role in establishing standard assessment protocols and standard assessment datasets, because we already know that bad actors take advantage of spaces where the safety mitigations aren't robust or present, so consistency and standardization is key. In the closed source settings, AI providers can detect for abusive content in the inputs and outputs of their systems and include prevention messaging for child sexual abuse material solicitation. Search engines and social platforms play a critical role, both in their ability to reduce the amplification and sharing of the abuse material itself, but also in reducing the amplification and sharing of the underlying models, applications, and services that are built to create AI-generated child sexual abuse material and built to nudify and sexualize existing images of children. These models, apps, and services can and should be removed from platforms and search results. These are just a handful of possible mitigations that, if implemented, will limit the amount of AI-generated child sexual abuse material created and detect that content that is created at an earlier stage. Now, I've talked about problems of scale and mitigations that scale, but at the heart of this is that kid who has been betrayed in one of the worst ways imaginable, who has been sexually abused, and now is seeing some of the worst moments in their life used to create more images of abuse and betrayal. That kid who is being sexually abused right now and deserves to be found. At this pivotal moment, as generative AI technology emerges, let's elevate that kid, the most vulnerable among us, and together build a world where she doesn't have to wait one more second to get her life back. We have the responsibility and the opportunity today to put that child first. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So in April 2020, I received a message from a friend warning me that there was a video of me circulating on Pornhub. I was humiliated in the worst possible way in front of the whole world. The shame destroyed me, and I came close to taking my own life. When I called the police to report this crime, law enforcement slut-shamed me by asking, "Are you a prostitute?" In my darkest hour, I couldn't find any technical tools directly addressing this issue, so I decided to create one. This is the founding story behind Alecto AI. Today, 600 million people suffer from online image abuse, and 1/3 of them have considered committing suicide. This is the famous deepfake video that went viral on TikTok last year. It's terrifying how authentic it looks, so it's fair to say that we have officially opened the Pandora's box with this technology. 2 years ago, the mayors of Berlin, Madrid, and Vienna were duped into holding video calls with someone impersonating the mayor of Kiev using deepfake. These politicians spoke with the impersonator for 15 minutes without suspecting his identity. We live in a world where fake news travels 6 times faster online than truthful news, and innocent people had to die to escape from cyberbullying. We live in a world where victims of online image abuse suffer in silence while the perpetrators get away freely. We live in a world where big tech companies have more control over our data than we do. Why is it so difficult to tackle? Because there is one crucial missing piece: consent. I believe individual consent is the silver bullet to solve the online image abuse problem, because we are the only ones who could verify the authenticity of our own image, but we can't take action unless we have sovereign control over our own data. Alecto AI serves as the broken link that connects individuals and platforms together. Here is how it works. We use facial recognition technology to perform reverse image search and find a match across the database. This is the tool that tells you where your image appears across the internet, when something seems wrong. We help you to report it and process the takedown notices across different platforms. As a survivor, I value privacy more than anything. So we added a security gate that verifies users' identities and prevents this tool from being abused by stalkers. Our 2-layer security system guarantees your search results are visible to your eyes only. If we consider each individual as a nation state, then our privacy and online image should be defended as our national sovereignty. Alecto AI as a detection tool serves as your first line of defense. Inspired by the nuclear deterrence theory, we have created a new system called software as a deterrence. So deepfake is new and emerging, but it's only the tip of the iceberg. Authentic pictures were actually abused all the time. Our viewpoints can be easily manipulated or even weaponized. If I only show you the left part of this picture, you might think of conflict, killing, and abuse. If I only show you the right part, you might think of peace, kindness, and human rights. When an image is interpreted out of context, it can create dangerous chain reaction. Speculation can quickly turn into gossip, which can lead to conflict and ultimately result in chaos. If you ask me, what can we do to end such abuse? The answer is quite simple. Stop blaming the victims and stop justifying the abuse. In an age of massive information and misinformation, us together as a society, as a civilization, must decide how to move forward, how to heal the divide, and how to build a safer, better tomorrow for future generations. After all, we do owe it to our children. A future that is worth living, not just simply surviving. Do not let my yesterday become their tomorrow. Even though I have seen a lot of evil, somehow I still believe that good trumps evil. While there is darkness, we shall let there be light, and even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sigurdur Ragnarsson, and I will discuss how we can use methods that are being employed for identification of known child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, to identify and reduce the distribution of deepfake abuse content. Now, every day, tens or hundreds of deepfake image abuse videos are distributed on commercial websites, and regardless of our reports, deepfake abuse content will continue to be generated and distributed. And experience has shown that once content is on the internet, it is extremely difficult and often impossible to completely remove it. And republishing and recirculation of abuse content online is a big problem, and the harm to the victims continues with each recirculation. Now, it would be great to be able to say, let's use technology to detect and stop distribution of this content. But that's an oversimplification. There is no simple solution because this is not a simple challenge, and the involvement of multiple stakeholders is required. So what can we do to limit the distribution of deepfake abuse content once it's out there? Well, for this purpose, I think it's important to see which methods are being employed for identification of known CSAM and see which of those can be applied for deepfake abuse content. And let's start with the reporting process. Now, due to the different nature of the content, the reporting process for CSAM and deepfake abuse is quite different. And we can expect that the initial reporters of deepfake abuse are the victims themselves. So it's essential for the victims to have a reliable platform to report deepfake abuse. And accordingly, we must establish dedicated reporting services that can not only confirm the authenticity of such content, but also swiftly act to facilitate its removal. And I think that the first step here would be to approach hotlines that currently serve as reporting services for child abuse material to see if they have the capacity to process reports for deepfake abuse material as well. And it is important for those reporting services that they focus on collaboration and coordination from day one. And for that purpose, a global network of reporting services for deepfake abuse content should be established, not unlike InHope, which is a global network for hotlines dedicated to combating online CSAM. But what about the identification of the content that has been reported? And a key success factor here is the creation of a centralized content matching database for deepfake abuse, where all the reporting services can both contribute and query. And this content matching database could be made available for online service providers for automatic identification of deepfake abuse material. For such a database, we need to make sure that the matching technology is powerful enough to work with both images and videos, and it should be able to identify different versions of the same image or video. Now, why is it important to identify different versions of this content? Well, interestingly, a lot of deepfake abuse content currently published uses the same base image or video. You can call this content template, where only the faces of the persons present are changed. And by being able to identify the content template, it can be flagged, even if the content can be flagged, even if there's a new version that has not been reported yet. And finally, we need to mobilize online service providers. While this is a challenging task, we can start by focusing on providers that have been active in the fight against online CSAM, and an excellent starting point for this is the Tech Coalition. So to summarize, we need to build on the experience of others, see what works and what doesn't. We need to have reporting services to make it as simple as possible to report and validate this content. And to be as effective as possible, the reporting services need to work closely together and establish a global network for this. And establishing a global network for this purpose would be a big step forward. And creating a centralized content matching database using advanced matching technologies will make a big difference in automatic identification of known deepfake abuse content. And finally, engaging with online service providers through organizations like the Tech Coalition will accelerate the adoption of automatic detection and takedown of deepfake abuse content. Thank you for your time. and don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions.